Overwatch 2 has 35 million players. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Stylosa. So this is actually really, really good news. And it's about time we had some good news to cover when it comes to Overwatch 2. Although, to be fair, the Ramatra stuff, you know, if you ignore the fact it's in the Battle Pass and all of that stuff, it is good news. The hero looks insane, looks cracked, the design looks awesome. Can't wait to get my hands on him and play him. I can't wait for it, but then I realise in the Battle Pass, and all these other issues, But just remember this before we get into the video. Underlying all of the problems, there is a game here that is a fantastic game. And you've got to remember this about Overwatch. Overwatch was one of the top 10 best-selling games of all time. So it's got an audience, right? But the question is, how big was the audience? Well, let me just show you this before we get into the whole quarterly earnings information that Activision Blizzard have released, which contains the 35 million players number. Look at this. This is from 2020. And this is when Blizzard were screaming from the rooftops going, look at this. Overwatch crossed 50 million players. And Call of Duty Modern Warfare sales are up great. But 50 million players they were reporting in 2022. Now, that's not active players. That is just 50 million players have played Overwatch. That is absolutely massive. So even if you deliver a complete drivel of a sequel that is terrible, you're still going to get players that are going to come back and check this out because you had 50 million players that had installed your game across all the platforms it was available. They will come back and they will check the game out. Now, this is where you can kind of go down the path of, you've got one chance, Blizzard, right? You've got this massive impact. You can make this big, huge impact. And you know, honestly, guys, they have made a big impact with the launch of Overwatch 2. The figures have been really huge. Of course, we can see 35 million players have already come back to play the game. Or maybe there'll be new players involved in that as well, because, of course, it is free to play now. But there's this idea of you've got this big impact moment, and you imagine if the game launched complete, if it had the full PvE, if it had, a much better monetization system, if it had an industry-leading battle pass, the game would take over. But we're not in that world. Instead, we're in a world where the monetization is not great, where the battle pass, which obviously is part of the monetization, is also really poor. But the game, the underlying game, is awesome. And then when they do things like check out our new hero, look at Ramatra, oh my days, he looks insane. So they're still nailing it on that front, but everything else is just kind of not great. And I worry that there might be a bit of a maybe a drop-off unless Blizzard can start fixing some of the issues and start increasing the rate we get content, which of course they said they're going to do that every 9 weeks. It's going to be a major update with the new season. Then we know we're going to get Ramatra at the start of December, but then of course the next season after that we won't get a hero. We'll get a game mode or something else along those lines, or a map or something like that. But yeah, the ball is in Blizzard's court. They've started and they've got huge figures, but they could have got more if the game was more feature complete. They could have got more if the monetization was better. The problem I've got though is, how do they adapt the systems that they've got to try and retain the player base that they've courted? I think that's the best way to put it, because they've got players coming back to check the game out. You need them to stay in the game. What you don't need is them to come into the game and go, oh, actually, I've run out of things to do. Maybe the progression systems aren't there. What's going on with competitive? It's very weird. You've got to win 7 games before you get a rank readjustment. Players stop playing. There's no level account. Players stop playing. And that's where I worry. So you have to be level-headed about this and say, look, the game is great, but it has got problems, and it is very much early access as they claim it to be, which I still think is ridiculous that a AAA company can release a game like this in early access. But there's a ton of issues, and yes, the figures might be great at the moment, but the question is, do they keep increasing or do they decrease? What is Blizzard going to do now? The ball is in their court, and I kind of always had this idea in my head that they've got 4 months to do stuff. So the game launches, you've got the 2 months of the first season that pretty well, they're not effectively over, but we're getting towards the end of that first season right now. Then we're going to go into the second season, which takes us into Christmas and beyond. And then the question is going to be, in sort of January and February, what happens then with the game? How do they maintain the interest? So this is the Forbes article, and they basically just wrote an article from the Activision Blizzard quarterly earnings report. Now, there is something a little bit different with this earnings report, especially if you're used to looking at earnings reports from Activision Blizzard. Because they are being bought out by Microsoft, they don't give you as much information. And they simply say it's because, hey, we're being bought out by Microsoft, so we're not going to give you as much information. So it is it's not as detailed as it normally is. Anyway, it does say this. Activision Blizzard's latest quarterly earnings report just dropped, and tucked away in the press release was a quick update about Overwatch 2 player count. The company says that since the game launched a month ago, more than 35 million people have played it. Many of those were new to Overwatch, Activision Blizzard added. Overwatch 2 had 25 million players in its first 10 days, despite all of the major launch issues. So Blizzard are saying, hey, most of them are new. I mean, we'll never know the full details. Blizzard can say kind of whatever they like, I guess, in some ways. But if that's true, then that might be saying that actually they're not managing to tap into those 50 million old players who installed and played Overwatch 1 throughout its lifespan. So something is clearly not right. Is that an issue with the way the monetization is presented? Is that an issue with like 5v5? Is that an issue with the fact it's free to play? I don't know, but I probably would err on the side of it's the monetization, and you guys could probably guess that. I'd say that because I do think the gameplay is good. I just think, yeah, the whole package of the game is just not there at the moment. Forbes then goes on to say, on top of that, average daily player numbers for the first month were more than double the levels that Blizzard was seeing in the early days of Overwatch 1. Overwatch 2 is also making money, despite players calling out the company for the high prices of skins and other cosmetics. Player investment is also off to a strong start, positioning the title to be a meaningful contributor to Blizzard's business in the fourth quarter, Activision Blizzard said in a press release. Now, of course, that could mean anything. Like, player investment is off to a strong start. That could mean anything. Like, they don't give us any details beyond that. They don't say, oh yeah, we're selling loads of the battle pass, or oh yeah, we're selling loads of stuff in the store. The only way us as players will know if one of those things is true or not will be if the store prices are reduced, or if they start offering more for the same value, for the same price. Then the store isn't working. If the store doesn't change, then the store is working. That's just the truth of it. It doesn't matter what we say or what we think, whatever. Battle pass as well, if we don't see any major changes to that, then it's just working, so they're just going to carry on doing it. That's the only way we can really tell. In the past, the company has revealed more details about its financial results and its games in investor calls after it releases quarterly reports, but Activision Blizzard isn't holding these investor calls while the proposed takeover of the company by Microsoft is still pending. In any case, Overwatch 2 looks to be in a healthy place from a business perspective. I think the real bellwether for the game's prospects will come in Season 2, when players will either have to buy the premium battle pass to unlock the new hero Ramatra, or grind to level 55 of the free battle pass. All Overwatch 1 players were able to unlock 3 new Season 1 heroes instantly and for free. So here's my conspiracy theorist madness now. I think Blizzard really hate us old gamers, right? And there's a strong comment, hate us. I don't mean hate as in, oh, we don't like those guys. I mean, they hate the fact that we are a thorn in their side, because we don't like the monetization. I don't like the monetization. And you end up with a bank of players that are really invested in your game that do feel very disappointed through decisions that don't really affect the game. Like, they don't affect the gameplay of the game, but they affect the product of the game. They affect the way the game makes money. Now, to new players walking in through the door, and this is what Blizzard are totally gambling on, those players are used to paying for battle passes, are used to buying expensive skins. So to them, it's like, well, this is just normal. I've got a free game here. I'm not really bothered. Yet to old players, we've seen this game how it could be. And I think the best way to sum this up is it's disappointment, I think, from my part, and probably from a lot of you guys as well. Although I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it probably is. I was hoping that Blizzard would give us the best version of a battle pass in the industry. I don't know why they haven't included all of the Cyberpunk skins in the battle pass. It is meant to be a Cyberpunk battle pass. Yet those Cyberpunk skins are being sold in the store, and the actual battle pass has just got random like Soldier, Winston, and a green Cassidy. It makes no sense, and a Pharah that's been ripped out of Warhammer 40k. So strange decisions. All right, guys, I'm going to end the video at that. Thank you for watching. But yeah, it's good news overall for Overwatch. They do have 35 million players at the moment, and that's a good foundation to start building on. So let's see what they do now. Let's make this game awesome, guys. Like, let's sort out the monetization, make it better, make the game more attractive to play. And yeah, I think this game could be big, but I'm also a little bit skeptical that it feels like it's on a precipice, a bit of a tipping point, right? It's going to go one way or the other. They either run out of steam after 4 months or so, or they don't, and they use it as a springboard to go forward, and they hope it's the latter. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. See you soon.